pretty extensively. I told you the years that silver was going to be churned because of what was going on within the banking system, the monetary system, the silver, the paper silver. Multiple parties were doing that. The biggest of the bunch was JP Morgan. And by the way, just to let you know, JP Morgan at one point here, a couple of years back, for manipulation of the silver market, had to pay like a $970 million fine. Right now, this second, internally, within the backroom stuff, while everybody else was celebrating Christmas and New Year's, all of December, the legal teams of a number of banks, including JP Morgan, the gorilla in the room, had done internal assessments and decided that the market had now become so out of whack, and their positions were so extreme, and yet it wasn't going to be able to contain silver from the breakout. So they switched from a containment policy to a get out of the way, try to survive mode. So what they're going to do is they're going to liquidate positions and pay off things and continue to try to accumulate physical silver as fast as they can. What happened Friday was you saw the market go vertical. I mean, literally just straight up. If you look at the last 3 months, it's straight up. You know, look at the last month, look at the last 3 months, look at the last 3 years since I told you to start buying silver. Remember, I was saying you could get and hold silver prior to that, but it was going to be churned. It wasn't going anywhere, but it wasn't a bad position to have silver because it's going to go vertical at some point. 3 years ago, we nailed it at the bottom, and it started its march up literally the day that we put our first silver coin out. And it hasn't turned back since. It's in a, for all intents and purposes, near vertical direction right now. What I told your audience and other audiences, you know, month and a half ago, in reviewing this with industry insiders from the mining side and from the industry side, the people that have to use silver to make things. And remember, Trump has put tariffs up. So even silver is going to have very high tariffs on it, 50%, maybe more in some places, over the base cost of silver. So you have to get it domestically here in the country if you don't want to pay a tariff. And the purpose of that is to turn the mining of silver and other metals back on inside of America. The pain point from an industry standpoint appears to be about $280 an ounce. And there's no real replacement for silver, by the way, that's cheaper.
So the objective is get silver to that sweet spot, which you said is 300, right?
Well, somewhere under 300 from an industry standpoint, somewhere under 300 from a mining standpoint, at about 260 to 280.
Jeez.
The mining companies start looking at silver as making sense to actually go after it again. But the problem with mining, it takes a long time to get through the permits, get equipment built, get in position, train workforces. We don't have enough silver to fill all the positions. JP Morgan and a bunch of other big players have suppressed silver prices, and they have a lot of delivery issues they have to do to cancel out their contracts on paper silver. It's paper silver, non-existent silver. They sold a dream. They're going to get back to it, and it took the air out of the market. People want physical delivery. So there's some kind of a compromise. So internally, what they're saying internally over at JP Morgan and the paperwork that, you know, I've seen, they're saying that silver is going to peak out by the end of the third quarter, which is, you know, 8 months from now, somewhere around 420.
Whoa,
is what they see as being the potential high point. For them, within their internal analysis, that's kind of a worst case scenario. But their best case scenario ends up being about the same, about 420.
Jeez.
So they see it because unlike a paper contract, unlike dollars themselves, which are just paper, unlike stock positions, which are just kind of guesses, if you will, you can do a lot of stuff to play with the numbers. When you're dealing with physical metals, and you have delivery dates and contracts, it's very, very real. And so you don't have that squishiness. And so with that in mind, when I'm telling your audience, I think a lot of that's going to get unwound. I think that it's going to probably, because they're taking action right now to get the pain out of the way as early as possible, they'll soften those positions. But at the end of the day, I still see it where the industry sees the problem and where the mining people see the problem, somewhere in the vicinity, I think just under 300 by the end
Fair
of the year.
enough. Fair enough.
And the reason that's important to everybody here, if you think you missed the big move in the metal, silver or gold, you didn't. And the reason is very technical and fundamental. This isn't speculation, probably like you would with a stock. Is the performance going to be good? Are the medical tests going to be great for the medical company? Other things. In this case, it's probably a lot more tangible. And so I don't think that it's as speculative as we would think in any other situation. But just to temper everything, Nino, things are never as good as you think they'll be or as bad as you think they'll be. The pressure is on for silver, and the timing is relatively short term. JP Morgan wants to have liquidated 50% of their short positions on silver before the end of March. That's 2 months from now.
Jeez.
They want to end the rest of that speculation and unwind their position in order to survive as an institution by the end of the third quarter. So the pressure within the markets to acquire physical silver are going to continue and be pretty steady. This surge that just happened Friday isn't an anomaly. And as America turns back on industrially, the need for silver is going to be front and center to supply the technical side of industry. All of this new defense building that we're going to do, selling stuff to countries around the world again, is going to require huge amounts of raw minerals that we will resource here in America. The future there, therefore, is pretty strong for an industrial application of silver. And when you consider that it was suppressed, what you're really seeing is somebody letting go of the rubber band and it snaps. In the short-term period, 5 years, you could see silver, and I've seen the arguments, and I don't argue with them, with silver going, north of 1,000 or more. But once the mining gets turned on back in America, and if Trump works deals with people from outside the U.S. mines that could turn it on to allow them to bring it in with less tariffs, you can moderate that over time.
Okay.
That's the key.
No,
So the short version is this: you're not wrong to get silver. Rothschild, old man Rothschild said, "I'll let somebody else make the first 20% of a market and the last 20%. I just need the 60% in the middle for the profit." If you want to get rid of the speculation early, the speculation early is now over.